Did you know that even in the quietest moments of the night, when the sounds of the city have faded into silence, and even the crickets outside your window have drifted into slumber, the ground beneath your back is still singing a song? This is not a poetic metaphor, it is a physical fact. Geologists call it the Earth's free oscillations, or more romantically, the Earth's hum. Imagine our planet as a giant bell made of rock and magma floating in the vastness of space. This bell is constantly ringing, emitting ultra-low frequency sounds, so low that the human ear cannot hear them. It lies far below the threshold of our perception, yet it is always there. Scientists once thought this hum only appeared after massive earthquakes, like the aftershocks of a great collision. But no, when they listened closer, using the most sensitive seismic instruments placed deep on the silent ocean floor, they realized that the Earth is always humming. Whether it is day or night, winter or summer, this planet is whispering a mysterious, low-frequency melody. Perhaps it is caused by the ceaseless pounding of ocean waves against distant shores, or the atmosphere itself gently stroking the hard crust of the Earth, perhaps. The reason you feel sleepy when you press your ear against your pillow is that your body, in some instinctual way, is resonating with this eternal lullaby of our Mother Earth, a lullaby that has lasted for 4.5 billion years and has never once paused. Hello, and welcome to Somnus Sleepy Science. Tonight, we will not analyze, we will not memorize, and there is no test to take. We will simply listen to the secrets of rock and soil, turning dry geological facts into a soft blanket for your tired mind. Take a deep breath, hold it for a moment, and gently exhale. Imagine all the tension of the day flowing out of your body with that breath, vanishing into nothingness like a thin wisp of smoke. Now, feel the stillness in your room. Do you feel like you are standing still? The bed seems motionless. The floor is solid. The glass of water on the table does not ripple. Everything seems anchored securely in absolute peace, but that is a sweet illusion. The truth is, right now, as you lie there, letting your limbs go limp, you are moving at a tremendous speed, faster than any supercar or jet ever built. At the equator, the Earth is spinning on its axis at about 1,000 miles per hour, 1,600 kilometers per hour. Imagine if you were on a jet plane flying at full speed towards the west. You would only just be keeping up with the ground beneath your feet. And that is not all. While spinning like a graceful ballet dancer in the dark velvet of the universe, Earth is also gliding around the sun at a staggering velocity, 67,000 miles per hour, 107,000 kilometers per hour. You are lying on a spaceship made of rock, hurtling through endless darkness. So why don't you feel dizzy? Why doesn't the teacup on the table fly off? Why do you feel so safe and so cozy? It is the gift of inertia and gravity. The atmosphere, that great blanket of gas surrounding you, spins right along with the Earth. Everything moves in sync, so smoothly, so perfectly. There is no bumping, no roaring of engines, just the silent hum of a magnificent natural machine. Imagine gravity not as a force, but as a pair of invisible, incredibly strong arms. It is not a chain that binds you. It is a hug, a continuous, never-ending hug. Right now, gravity is gently pulling your whole body down into the mattress. It whispers to every cell in your body, you are safe. You are not going to drift away. I am holding you right here on this familiar ground. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the bed. That is gravity cuddling you. The heavy, pleasant sensation in your eyelids. The feeling of your legs sinking deep into the covers. These are all reminders that you are protected by the earth. If you can feel the comfort spreading from that invisible embrace, gently leave a small sign for me, perhaps a comment about where you are resting your head tonight, on a soft bed or a cozy sofa. And don't forget to subscribe to Somnus Sleepy Science so we can meet again in the next dream. But do it slowly, or just think it in your mind. Don't let the light of the screen wake the sleepiness that is creeping in. Continue to let go. We often see the globe in classrooms as round and perfect as a polished marble. But in reality, the true shape of the earth is softer and much more imperfect. Geologists call this shape the weight. If we were to drain all the oceans and look at the bare rock, Earth would look like a giant potato, lumpy and uneven, floating lazily in space. In some places, gravity is stronger, pulling everything closer to the center. In others, it is slightly weaker, allowing the sea to rise higher. But it is this imperfection that creates the beauty of our terrain. And wrapping around this giant rocky potato is the Earth's crust, the place we call home. Do you know how fragile this crust is? If you compare the Earth to an apple, the rocky crust where we build our houses, where mountains rise and oceans deepen, is only as thin as the skin of that apple. Beneath that fragile skin is an entire ocean of molten rock moving slowly, but we will speak of that later. For now, return to the feeling of being enveloped. Above your head, the atmosphere is pressing down. It sounds heavy, but actually, it is very comforting. At sea level, the air presses on our shoulders with a pressure of about 14.7 pounds per square inch. Imagine that. It is like a natural weighted blanket, weighing tons but completely invisible, draped over the entire surface of the planet to keep us warm and protect all life below. We have been used to this weight since birth. So instead of feeling crushed, we feel held in this quiet space. Try to imagine you are lying on a patch of lush green grass at night. The sky above is filled with glittering stars, but you are not looking up. You are pressing your ear against the ground. The scent of damp earth, of wild grass and night dew drifts into your nose. Can you smell the petrichor, the scent of rain that has just stopped? It is the smell of the Mother Earth sighing in relief after a long, hot day. And as you press your ear down, you begin to feel the thickness of the earth. Beneath the soft grass is the loose topsoil where tree roots are sleeping. Beneath the soil is the dense, cool clay. And beneath that is the bedrock, the granite that has lain there for millions of years, waiting to tell you the story of time. You are lying on the greatest, thickest, and oldest history book ever written. Every layer of rock beneath your back is a page, recording eras that humans have never set foot in. There are layers of rock that were once the bottom of a dried up ocean. There are layers that were once the ash of a volcano that went extinct long ago. They are all lying still beneath you, forming a sturdy mattress more than 4,000 miles thick, supporting your sleep. Nothing can disturb you right now. You are protected by billions of tons of rock and soil as your mind begins to drift along with those layers of earth. we will prepare for a journey deeper still, not up, but down, through the skin of the apple, into the place where darkness and heat create sparkling diamonds, into the place where time seems to freeze in the density of matter. Your body is getting heavier, heavier, sinking deep into the soft bed. Your eyelids have become heavy. Your breath is steady, matching the rhythm of the Earth's rotation. Let your imagination become a soft drill, beginning to turn gently, gently, preparing to pass through the floor, through the foundation of the house, to enter the dark and peaceful ground. We are about to leave this noisy surface to enter the world of eternal silence. We are now drifting away from the starlight. We are sinking below the grass, below the roots of the sleeping trees, and entering the vast, silent interior of our world. Imagine that your mind is a soft, weightless vessel, capable of passing through solid rock as easily as a cloud passes through the sky. You are slowly descending into the earth. The noise of the wind, the chirping of insects, and the distant hum of traffic are all left behind. Above you, the ceiling of soil closes gently. You are now held in the warm, dark embrace of the crust. Have you ever wondered what lies beneath the foundations of your home? If we were to dig a hole, not a small hole for a garden post, but a hole that goes down and down, and down, we would find a world more mysterious than the surface of Mars. Humans have always been obsessed with the sky, looking up at the moon and the stars, but we have largely ignored the universe beneath our feet. The deepest hole humanity has ever dug is the Kola super deep borehole in Russia. It took them 20 years, 2 decades of slow, patient grinding to drill just 7.5 miles, 12 kilometers into the earth. To us, 7.5 miles sounds like a long distance. It is a long commute to work. It is a tiring run. But to the earth, it is nothing. If the earth were an apple, that hole, the deepest triumph of human engineering, would not even pierce through the skin. It is barely a scratch, but let us drift deeper than that drill ever could. As we descend through the continental crust, the first thing you notice is the temperature. It gets warmer. It is not an uncomfortable heat. Think of it as the warmth of a heavy duvet that has been trapping your body heat all night. This is the Earth's internal furnace. Some of this heat is left over from the violent birth of the planet 4.5 billion years ago, trapped inside the rock, unable to escape. But much of it comes from the rocks themselves, radioactive elements like uranium and potassium, decaying slowly, very slowly, releasing a tiny bit of heat with every atomic change. The rock around you acts like a thick blanket, keeping that heat inside. You are descending into a cozy, geothermal slumber. At this depth, miles underground, there is no weather. There are no storms, no rain, no changing seasons. It is a place of absolute permanence. The granite rocks here have not seen the sun in millions of years. They sit in total darkness, under immense pressure, holding up the world above them. There is something deeply comforting about that stability. While our lives on the surface are full of change and chaos, the deep earth is constant. It is the solid ground that never wavers. Let's go deeper. At about 20 to 30 miles, down 30 to 50 kilometers, we reach a boundary. It has a strange and beautiful name, the Mohorovicic discontinuity, or simply the Mohovish. This is the floor of the crust. This is where the skin of the apple ends and the flesh begins. Passing through the moho, we enter the mantle. This is the thickest layer of the Earth, a massive ocean of rock that makes up 84% of our planet's volume. When you see volcanoes in movies, you might think the mantle is a churning ocean of liquid red lava. But that is a misconception. The mantle is not liquid. It is solid rock. If you were to touch it, and if you could survive the heat, it would feel as hard as the stone in your garden. However, in the slow, sleepy time scale of geology, this solid rock behaves like a fluid. Imagine a jar of very thick, cold honey, or perhaps a piece of old caramel. If you hit it with a hammer, it might shatter. But if you leave it alone for a long time, gravity will make it flow. It spreads out. It moves. That is the mantle. It is solid rock that flows. It moves with infinite slowness, churning in slow-motion currents that take millions of years to complete a single circle. It is a movement so slow that it is almost indistinguishable from stillness. It is the ultimate slow-motion dance. The heat from the core rises, pushing the rock up by a few centimeters a year, about the same speed that your fingernails grow. Think about your fingernails. You never see them growing. You can stare at them all day and they seem static. Yet, week by week, they lengthen. The earth moves at this same sleepy pace. The ground beneath us is constantly flowing, breathing, and recycling itself. But it does so with such patience that we never notice as we drift through this thick, green rockius. The mantle is actually green. Made of a beautiful crystal called peridotite, we encounter sparkling treasures. Born of pressure, we are now drifting through the diamond stability zone. Diamonds are not just pretty stones for rings. They are miracles of stress. They are born about 100 miles, 150 kilometers underground, where the pressure is so crushing, so intense, that it forces carbon atoms to stop wandering and lock together in the strongest embrace in the universe. Think of a diamond as a piece of charcoal that was hugged too tight. The earth squeezed it and squeezed it until it had no choice but to become transparent and invincible. And then these diamonds wait. They sleep in the deep, dark mantle for billions of years. Most diamonds you see in jewelry stores are older than the dinosaurs. They are some of the oldest objects you will ever touch. They have been resting in this green, rocky womb, waiting for a rare volcanic eruption to carry them up to the surface at supersonic speeds. But until then, they sleep. They are tiny time capsules of the deep earth, glittering in the absolute blackness, where no light has ever shone. If you are enjoying this slow descent into the secrets of our world, and if you feel your eyelids growing heavier with every mile we travel downwards, please gently invite this channel into your nightly routine. You don't need to open your eyes to subscribe. Just let the intention settle in your mind, like a diamond settling in the mantle. We are drifting deeper still. The pressure is immense now. If you were a submarine, you would be crushed instantly. But in this journey, you are spirit, you are thought. The pressure here does not hurt. It holds. It is a weighted blanket. It is a pressure that keeps the earth together. Without this pressure, the planet would fly apart. We are now 1,800 miles, 2,900 kilometers beneath your bed. We have reached the core mantle boundary. Here, the solid rock ends, and we enter a world of liquid metal. The outer core. This is a vast sea of molten iron and nickel. It is as fluid as water, but as heavy as lead. and it is hot. This liquid metal is constantly churning, swirling in giant hurricanes of iron deep inside the planet. And here is a fact that should make you feel safe. This swirling ocean of metal is what protects you while you sleep. As the iron swirls, it generates a magnetic field. This field reaches out from the core, passes through the mantle, through the crust, through your house, and out into space, creating a giant invisible shield around the Earth. This shield deflects the harmful solar winds and cosmic radiation that constantly bombard our planet. Without this churning, liquid core, the Earth would be a dead, dry rock like Mars. So, as you lie there, remember that miles beneath you, a silent, burning ocean is working tirelessly to deflect the dangers of the cosmos, creating a safe bubble for life to flourish. You are safe because the Earth is alive deep inside. And finally, we reach the center, the destination of our journey, the inner core. We are now 3,200 miles, 5,100 kilometers down, the center of the Earth. Here lies one of the most mind-bending facts of nature. The temperature here is staggering, about 9,800 degrees Fahrenheit, 400 degrees Celsius. That is as hot as the surface of the sun. You have a piece of the sun burning right beneath your feet. Logic tells us that at this temperature, everything should be vaporized, or at least liquid. But the inner core is not liquid. It is a solid ball of iron, about 70% the size of the moon. How can something be as hot as the sun, but remain solid, ice-hard metal? The answer is pressure. The weight of the entire planet, all the oceans, all the mountains, all the cities, all the mantle, and the outer core is pressing down on this central point. The pressure is so incomprehensibly high that the iron atoms simply cannot melt. They want to turn into liquid. They vibrate with heat, but the pressure forces them to stay in a rigid crystal lattice. They are locked in place by the sheer weight of the world. Imagine that. A heart of iron, hotter than a star, but frozen solid by a cosmic hug. This inner core is suspended in the middle of the liquid outer core, and it spins. In fact, some scientists believe the inner core spins just a tiny bit faster than the rest of the planet. It is running its own race, deep in the dark. This is the anchor of our world, a dense, hot, solid sphere that has been cooling down since the very first day the Earth was born. It cools so slowly that it will take billions of years more for it to go cold. It is a battery that lasts for eons. Now, pause for a moment in this center. Visualize that you are curling up right there in the center of the gravity. You are at the most stable point in the universe relative to our planet. Up, down, left, right. You are at the absolute bottom. Feel the density of the iron around you. It is warm, grounded, and unshakable. Slowly, we must begin our return. We will not rush. We will let the natural buoyancy of your mind float you back up through the liquid iron, up through the slow-flowing green mantle, up past the sleeping diamonds, up through the cool granite crust, and back to the soil. But before we break the surface, let us pause in the crust once more. For the crust is not just one solid block. It is broken. It is shattered into giant puzzle pieces that are constantly moving, drifting and dancing while you sleep. The continents are embarking on a long, slow voyage. The ground you are lying on right now is not where it was yesterday. It has moved perhaps only a fraction of a hair's width, but it has moved. And that brings us to the great dance of the continents. A dance so slow it takes an eternity to finish a single step. Are you ready to drift along with the continents, to feel the ground beneath you sliding across the globe? Take a deep breath. Feel the solidity of your bed again. We have returned from the center of the earth, rising up through the fire and the iron, back to the cool, hard shell where you now lay. But as you lie there, feeling the stillness of your room, I want you to imagine something. Imagine that your bed is not resting on the floor of a house, but rather it is resting on the deck of a massive, silent ship. A ship made of stone. And this ship is drifting across a sea that is not made of water, but of hot, slow-moving rock. This is the reality of our world. We call it plate tectonics, but tonight, let us call it the Great Drift. The ground beneath your house feels solid. It feels permanent. If you were to mark a spot in your garden with a stone, you would expect it to be in the exact same place 50 years from now, and to your eyes, it will be. But to the earth, that stone is traveling. The surface of our planet is cracked. It is broken like the shell of a hard-boiled egg that has been gently tapped against a table. These broken pieces are called tectonic plates. There are 7 major plates and many smaller ones, all jostling for space, all floating on the hot, slippery currents of the mantle below. You are currently riding on one of these plates. Depending on where you are, you might be on the North American plate, drifting westward, away from Europe. Or perhaps you are on the Eurasian plate, drifting eastward. Or maybe you are on the Australian plate, pushing north towards the equator, seeking the warmth. But how fast are we moving? If you were in a car, you would feel the speed. If you were on a boat, you would feel the waves. But the earth moves with such a gentle, agonizing slowness that it requires a different kind of patience to perceive it. Look at your hand. Specifically, look at your fingernails. Or, if your eyes are closed, just imagine them. Think about how slowly your fingernails grow. You cannot see it happening. You can stare at your finger for an hour, a day, even a week, and you will see no change. Yet, we know they are growing, cell by microscopic cell. They are pushing forward. This is exactly the speed at which the continents move. The tectonic plates travel at the rate of growing fingernails, roughly 2 to 10 centimeters per year. It is a speed so slow it borders on stillness. But it is relentless. It never stops. While you sleep tonight, the continent of North America will move a tiny fraction of a hair's width further away from Europe. The Atlantic Ocean is getting wider, inch by inch, year by year. Imagine that you are standing on a beach in New York, looking east across the ocean towards Portugal. Every year, that distant shore moves just a little bit further away. It is the longest, slowest goodbye in history. But on the other side of the world, the Pacific Ocean is shrinking. It is being swallowed, bit by bit, as the plates around it close in. It is a slow, rhythmic breathing of the planetary crust. One ocean opens its lungs, expanding. Another exhales, contracting. Why does this happen? What engine could possibly push entire continents, carrying billions of tons of mountains and cities across the globe? It is the heat we spoke of earlier. The heat from the core tries to escape. It causes the mantle to churn in slow circular currents, like soup simmering in a pot. These currents grab the bottom of the crust and drag it along. We are all just passengers on a conveyor belt of stone. Let's travel back in time for a moment. Let's drift backwards, rewinding the movement of these plates. If we go back 250 million years, the map of the world looks very different. There were no separate continents, no Africa, no South America, no Antarctica. All the land masses of the Earth were huddled together in one giant, massive supercontinent. We call it Pangea. The word comes from Greek, meaning all earth. Pangea was a time when the world was hugging itself. You could walk from what is now New York to Morocco without ever getting your feet wet. You could stroll from Antarctica to India through a continuous forest. It is a comforting thought, isn't it? That once all the lands were one family. They were united in a vast, dry embrace. But then the heat beneath them became too much. The crust began to tear. Great rifts opened up, and water rushed in. The family broke apart. The pieces drifted away. Lonely islands of rock wandering across the globe to find their current places. And look at the map today. Have you ever noticed how the east coast of South America looks exactly like a puzzle piece that fits into the west coast of Africa? That is not a coincidence. They were once joined. They were ripped apart, and they have been drifting away from each other for millions of years, leaving the Atlantic Ocean in the space between them. But here is a secret that the rocks whisper to those who listen. They will meet again. The Earth loves cycles. It loves to repeat itself. Geologists believe that in the far, far future, perhaps 250 million years from now, the continents will crash back together. The Pacific Ocean will close. The Americas will collide with Asia. A new supercontinent will form. A new Pangea. The family will reunite. It is a slow, slow dance of separation and reunion, a breathing in and a breathing out. But for now, we are in the drifting phase, and sometimes this drifting is not just a sliding motion. Sometimes it is a collision. But do not worry, in our sleepy timescale, even a crash is a creative act. Think of India. Millions of years ago, India was an island, floating alone in the Indian Ocean. It moved north, faster than most plates, racing towards Asia. And then it hit, but it didn't stop. It kept pushing. And because both India and Asia are made of rock that is too light to sink, the land had nowhere to go but up. That collision, that slow-motion car crash of continents, is what created the Himalayas. Mount Everest is simply the crumpled hood of the car. It is the result of the Earth folding over on itself. And because India is still pushing, still driving north into Tibet, Mount Everest is still growing. Every year, the highest point on Earth gets a few millimeters taller. The mountain is alive. It is rising, silently and majestically, reaching for the stars, powered by the slow drift of the plate beneath it. Our worries seem so large, so immediate. We worry about tomorrow, about next week, but the Earth thinks in millions of years. The Earth knows that mountains rise and fall like waves on the sea, just much, much slower. Compared to the age of the rock you are sleeping above, your anxieties are fleeting shadows. They pass like clouds. The rock remains. Feel that stability now. The plate you are on is thick, cold, and rigid. It is called the lithosphere. Lithos means stone. you are sailing on a stone boat. Beneath this stone boat is a layer called the astenosphere. Asteno means weak. It is hot, soft, and buttery. Visualize your stone boat gliding smoothly over that layer of warm butter, frictionless, easy, drifting. There is no need to steer. There is no need to row. The currents of the earth are doing all the work for you. You are simply a passenger, and while you are a passenger, you might want to make yourself as comfortable as possible. If you haven't already, adjust your pillow. Find that cool spot on the sheets. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. If you enjoy these stories of our slow and beautiful world, and you want to be notified when the next journey begins, you can quietly subscribe to our channel. But let that action be part of your relaxation, a small nod to the guide before you close your eyes again as we drift on these giant plates. We must acknowledge that the Earth is not always solid. There are cracks in the shell. There are places where the heat from the deep escapes to the surface. These are the vents of the planet, the exhaust pipes of the great engine. We are approaching the ring of fire, but do not be afraid. In the context of sleep, fire is warmth. Magma is simply liquid earth glowing in the night. We are going to visit the sleeping giants, the volcanoes. Most people think of volcanoes as violent, exploding mountains, and sometimes they are. But for the vast majority of their lives, volcanoes are asleep. They are the deepest sleepers on the planet. They can nap for 10,000 years without stirring. Let us glide towards one of these sleeping giants. Let us see what it looks like when the Earth dreams of fire. We are moving from the shifting plates to the weeping Earth. We have drifted across the moving plates, sliding over the buttery mantle. Now, let us find a place to rest. Let us find a source of warmth in the cool night air. In your mind's eye, visualize a mountain. It is not a jagged, angry peak. It is a perfect, symmetrical cone, rising gracefully from the green plains. Its slopes are covered in dark, fertile soil and lush forests. White snow caps its summit, glowing softly under the moonlight. This is a volcano, but do not be alarmed. It is a sleeping giant. In geology, we classify volcanoes into 3 categories: active, dormant, and extinct. But tonight, let's use gentler words. There are the awake, the sleeping, and those who have gone silent forever. The mountain before you is sleeping. It has not spoken in 10,000 years. The fires that once roared within it have quieted down to a gentle simmer. It is the most peaceful place on earth because it is a place of rest after great exertion. Let us walk closer. The ground here feels different. It feels warm. If you were to take off your shoes and walk barefoot on the slopes of this sleeping giant, you would feel a faint, gentle heat rising from the soil. It is like the warmth of a pet that has been sleeping in the sun. It is the Earth's body heat. We often fear volcanoes because of their fire and ash. We think of them as destroyers, but the rocks tell a different story. They tell a story of creation, and more importantly, a story of patience. Let's sink beneath the mountain. Let's go down into the magma chamber, the heart of the volcano. We tend to think that all magma wants to explode. We imagine it fighting to get out, angry and pressurized. But here is a secret. Most magma never erupts. The vast majority of the molten rock inside the Earth never sees the light of day. It never bursts into the sky. It never becomes a lava flow. Instead, It chooses a path of quiet introversion. It chooses to stay underground, swaddled in the deep insulating crust, and there, in the dark, it begins the long, slow process of cooling. This is how granite is born. You have likely touched granite before. Perhaps you have a granite countertop in your kitchen, or you have walked on a granite floor in a bank or a library. It is that speckled, beautiful, stone gray, pink, white, and black, all mixed together. Next time you see a piece of granite, look closely at it, really closely. See those tiny specks of color? Those are crystals, quartz, feldspar, mica. The size of those crystals tells you how well the rock slept. When magma erupts onto the surface as lava, it cools instantly. The air is cold. The lava freezes in seconds or days. The atoms inside don't have time to organize. They are frozen in place, creating smooth, dark rocks with no visible crystals like basalt. But granite is special. Granite is magma that got stuck deep underground and cooled down incredibly slowly. We are talking about a cooling process that takes millions of years. Imagine a pot of soup that takes 1,000,000 years to cool down. Because the heat leaves so slowly, the atoms inside the liquid magma have the luxury of time. They are not rushed. They can drift around in the melt, finding their partners. A silicon atom finds an oxygen atom. They hold hands. They look for others. Slowly, meticulously, they arrange themselves into perfect geometric patterns. They build crystals. One crystal grows millimeter by millimeter over centuries. Then another crystal grows beside it. They interlock, hugging each other tightly, creating a mosaic of minerals. So when you touch a piece of granite, you are touching frozen time. You are touching the result of the Earth's patience. You are seeing a physical record of 1,000,000 years of slow, undisturbed cooling. Let this thought comfort you. Not everything needs to happen quickly. The strongest, most beautiful things in life, like the granite foundation of a mountain, take time to form. They require stillness. They require a long, uninterrupted sleep. Feel your own body cooling down now, just a fraction. The heat of the day is dissipating. Your muscles are settling, just like the crystals in the granite, finding their comfortable place, locking into a position of rest. Now, let us rise from the deep granite roots and look at another miracle of the volcano, a miracle of lightness. Imagine you are at the edge of the ocean, near the foot of the volcano. The waves are lapping gently at the shore. You look into the water and you see something strange. There is a rock floating on the waves. A rock floating. It bobs up and down with the swell, light as a feather, drifting like a cork. This is pumice. Pumice is the only rock in the world that can swim. It is the only stone that does not sink. How is this possible? Pumice is born from the froth of the volcano. Imagine opening a bottle of shaken soda. You see all those bubbles rushing up. Magma contains gas, too, water vapor, carbon dioxide. When the magma rises quickly, the pressure drops and it starts to bubble. It turns into a hot, frothy foam. If this foam cools down fast enough, the bubbles get trapped. The rock hardens around the air pockets. So, a piece of pumice is actually mostly air. It is a stone skeleton wrapping around thousands of tiny bubbles of ancient gas. It is rock that wanted to be a cloud. Imagine holding a piece of pumice in your hand. It feels rough, textured, but incredibly light. It feels confusing to your brain, which expects a rock to be heavy. Now, imagine a whole raft of pumice stones floating silently in the middle of the Pacific Ocean under the stars. They are drifting with the currents, miles from land. They are the wanderers of the geological world. Eventually, after years of floating, they might wash up on a distant beach, carrying with them the story of the fire that made them. Granite is the rock that sleeps deep. Pumice is the rock that dreams of flying. And there is one more sleepy stone here: obsidian. Obsidian is the sleeping glass. It is jet black, smooth, and shiny. It is what happens when lava cools so fast instantly that no crystals can form at all. It is a frozen liquid. Stare into the black depth of a piece of obsidian. It is like looking into a deep, dark pool of water at midnight. It is the color of sleep itself. The volcano gives us these gifts: the solid, patient granite, the floating, airy pumice, and the dark, silent obsidian. As we stand on the slope of this sleeping giant, the air is getting thinner and clearer. The stars seem brighter. The mountain is breathing, 2 dots sometimes. If you listen very closely, near a volcanic vent called a fumarolu, can hear it. It is not a roar. It is a soft hiss. It is steam escaping from deep below, whispering as it meets the cold air. It sounds like the earth is shushing us, telling us to be quiet, telling us that the fire is under control. Hush, the mountain says. I am resting. The fire is sleeping. You should sleep too. The steam rises in white, ghostly pillars, twisting and turning in the moonlight before vanishing into the night sky. Let your breath mimic the fumarole. Breathe in deep and breathe out a long, slow hiss, releasing the pressure, releasing the heat. You are safe here on the side of the sleeping giant. The ground is warm. The stars are cold. And deep beneath you, the granite is forming, crystal by crystal. In the comforting dark, we have explored the fire that sleeps. Now, we must look at what holds the mountain up. Because mountains are not just sitting on top of the ground like a hat. They are like icebergs. They have roots. Are you ready to see what lies beneath the weight of the world? We leave the warmth of the sleeping volcano behind us now. We travel higher into the thin, crisp air of the great mountain ranges, the Rockies, the Andes, the Alps, the Himalayas. In your mind, picture a jagged, snow-capped peak piercing the clouds. It looks incredibly heavy, doesn't it? Billions of tons of granite and limestone piled up towards the sky. It is a monument of weight. When we look at a mountain, we naturally look up. We admire the summit. We wonder what it is like to stand on the top. But the earth looks down. The earth knows that the true secret of a mountain is not its height, but its depth. Here is a fact that changes the way you see the horizon. Mountains are like icebergs. You know the rule of the iceberg. What you see above the water is only a tiny fraction of the whole. The massive bulk of the ice is hidden beneath the dark waves. Mountains follow the exact same law. It is a principle geologists call insomnia. It essentially means equal standing or balance. Because the Earth's crust is floating on the soft, buttery mantle we spoke of earlier, it acts just like a block of wood floating in a bathtub. If you want the wood to stick up high above the water, It has to sink deep below the surface to support itself. So, for every mile of mountain you see reaching up into the blue sky, there are 5, 6, or even 7 miles of mountain root bulging down into the hot, green mantle below. Think about that. Beneath Mount Everest, beneath that windy, frozen peak that touches the jet stream, there is a gigantic root of rock hanging down into the depths of the planet, anchoring it in place. The higher the mountain, the deeper the root. This means that the Himalayas are not just scars on the surface. They are massive fangs of rock biting deep into the flesh of the earth. They are steady. They are grounded. Imagine you are a mountain. Feel your feet, your roots sinking deep, deep into the warm, soft layers of the earth. You are not just resting on the surface. You are embedded. You are held. The mantle wraps around your roots, supporting your weight, balancing you perfectly. You cannot be knocked over. You cannot be moved. You are in a state of perfect equilibrium. There is a profound peace in this balance. The earth is constantly adjusting to keep you comfortable. If a mountain loses weight, perhaps the wind wears away its peak, or a glacier carves out a valley, the root beneath it gets smaller. It floats up a little. It buoys up. Imagine rising from a soft memory foam mattress. As you lift your body, the mattress slowly, gently rises back up to fill the space. The earth does the same. It is elastic. It is responsive. It cradles the mountains, and it cradles you. Let's travel up now. Let's leave the roots in the dark and travel all the way up the spine of the mountain, past the tree line where the pines stop growing, past the alpine meadows. To the very summit, we are entering the zone of silence. High up here, the air is very thin. There are fewer molecules to carry sound waves. Noises here don't travel well. They fall flat. They disappear quickly into the vastness. There are no crickets here, no rustling leaves, no city hum. Even the wind, when it stops blowing, leaves behind a silence so absolute it feels like a physical presence. It is a vacuum of sound. Imagine standing on the peak of a high mountain at night. The sky above is not black. It is a deep, bruised purple, crowded with more stars than you have ever seen. Because the air is so thin, the stars don't twinkle as much. They just burn. Steady, piercing lights in the void. You are closer to space than you are to the sea in this high, cold place. Time seems to stop. The chaotic world of humans, the deadlines, the traffic, the noises miles below, hidden under a blanket of clouds. Up here, there is only rock, ice, and the slow, rhythmic expansion of the universe. And yet, even this frozen peak is moving. Remember how we said the plates are crashing? Because of that slow-motion collision, Mount Everest is still growing. It grows about 4 millimeters every year. That is about the thickness of a credit card. It doesn't sound like much, but over a lifetime, it adds up. Over a geological era, it is monumental. While the world sleeps, the mountain stretches. It reaches just a tiny bit closer to the moon. It is a slow, silent growth, unnoticed by the birds that fly past it, unnoticed by the climbers who scale it. But the mountain knows. The roots know. There is a gentle rivalry happening here. The tectonic plates push the mountain up, but gravity and weather try to pull it. Down it is the great grind, the battle between the hammer of the earth building up and the sandpaper of the sky. wearing down, and usually the sandpaper wins. But the process of wearing down a mountain is so gentle, so gradual, that it becomes a lullaby in itself. It is the story of erosion, the story of how a jagged, angry rock becomes a smooth, round pebble. Are you ready to surrender to the flow? To let the sharp edges of your day be rounded off by the gentle waters of time? We are about to descend from the snowy peaks. We are going to follow a drop of water. A single snowflake lands on the summit. It sits there for a moment, perfect and crystalline. Then the morning sun touches it. It melts. It becomes a tiny bead of water. It begins to roll. It finds a friend, another drop. They join hands. They become a trickle. The trickle finds a crack in the rock. It slides down, cool and clear. It joins a stream. The stream joins a river. We are leaving the static stability of the mountain roots and entering the fluid, rhythmic world of the journey home. We are going to see how the water shapes the world, slowly, softly, grain by grain. Feel the tension in your jaw melting like that snowflake. Feel the tightness in your shoulders flowing down like the stream. Everything flows. Everything moves towards the sea. You are drifting downstream now. The water is cool. The current is lazy. Let us wash away the stone. We are following the water now. We have left the snowy, silent peaks of the mountains and descended into the valleys. Here, we witness one of the most comforting truths of geology. Softness always wins. In the battle between the hard, unyielding rock and the soft, fluid water, the water will always, eventually, triumph. It does not win by force. It wins by patience. It wins by simply not giving up. This process is called erosion. It sounds like a harsh word, a word of wearing down. But tonight, let's think of it as the great polishing. The earth is constantly smoothing itself out, removing the sharp edges, softening the rough textures, turning the jagged into the gentle dot. Consider the Grand Canyon. Picture yourself standing at the rim of this vast chasm. The sun is setting, casting long purple shadows across the layers of rock. It is so quiet here that the silence feels expansive, like a physical weight lifting off your chest. Below you, a mile down, flows the Colorado River. From this height, it looks like a tiny silver ribbon. It looks insignificant. How could that small stream of water carve through this fortress of stone? It did it with time. 6 million years of time, day after day, century after century, the river flowed. It carried tiny grains of sand, microscopic chisels. Sand rubbed them against the riverbed. It wasn't a hammer blow. It was a caress. A sandpaper kiss, scrape, scrape, slowly. The river sliced through the plateau. It cut through limestone, through sandstone, through shale. It sliced through history. When you look at the walls of the canyon, you are looking at the calendar of the world. The red rocks at the top are young, from the time of the dinosaurs. The dark black rocks at the very bottom, the Vishnu basement rocks, are 2 billion years old. They are the basement of the world, exposed to the light by the gentle persistence of water. There is a profound lesson in the canyon for us tonight. The river didn't rush. It didn't try to carve the canyon in a day. It just flowed. It stayed true to its course. And by doing simply what it was meant to do, it created a masterpiece. You don't need to force things. You don't need to rush your sleep. Just let the river of time flow. the obstacles will give way. Now, let us move away from the grand scale of the canyon and look at something small, something you can hold in your hand. Let us go to a riverbed. The water here is clear and cool. It babbles over the stones. Burble, splash, hush. Reach your hand into the cold water and pick up a stone. It is a river stone. Feel it. It is perfectly smooth. It is round. It feels cool and heavy in your palm. There are no sharp corners, no jagged edges to cut you. It is soothing just to hold it. But this stone was not always this way. Once, long ago, this stone was a jagged shard. It had broken off the high mountain peak during a storm. It was sharp, angry, and rough. It tumbled into the river, full of edges. But then the river took it. The current rolled it over. It bumped gently against other stones. It rubbed against the sand. Tumble, turned smooth. Over hundreds of years, the river washed away the anger. It sanded down the sharp points. It polished the surface until it became a perfect sphere of calm. This is what sleep does to our thoughts. Our worries during the day are like jagged rocks. They are sharp. They have edges. Did I do this right? What if that happens? I forgot to call. But when you enter the river of sleep, you let those thoughts tumble. You let the current of dreams roll them over. Imagine your thoughts are those stones. You are dropping them one by one into the gentle stream. Plop. That's the worry about work. Gone into the water. Plop. That's the stress about the future. Gone. Watch them sink to the bottom. Hear them clicking gently against the other stones. The current is rolling them away, smoothing them out, polishing them until they are just harmless, round pebbles on the riverbed of your mind. The water flows over them. The sound is white noise, constant, rhythmic, healing, and it is not just water that polishes the world. The wind does it too. Let's drift from the wet river to the dry, warm desert. The Aeolian processes, the work of the wind. Imagine a vast sea of sand dunes under the moonlight. The sand is cool now that the sun has set. The dunes look like waves of the ocean, frozen in time. But they are not frozen. They are moving. Every grain of sand is a tiny crystal of quartz, harder than steel. The wind picks them up and carries them. Listen to the wind. Whoosh, she. It is the invisible sculptor in places like Utah or the Sahara. The wind throws these tiny sand grains against the cliffs, but it is a gentle bombardment. Over millions of years, the wind carves holes in the rock. It creates natural arches, giant, graceful bridges of stone that loop into the sky. They look fragile, but they are strong. They frame the stars. There is a phenomenon here known as the singing sands in certain deserts. When the sand slides down the face of a steep dune, it creates a vibration, a low, humming drone. It sounds like a cello being played underground, or a choir humming with their mouths closed. The desert is singing itself to sleep. The friction of millions of tiny grains rubbing together creates a song. We are all just grains of sand, drifting. Sometimes we are part of a mountain. Sometimes we are a pebble in a river. Sometimes we are a grain of dust in the wind. But notice the pattern. Big rocks become small rocks. Rough rocks become smooth rocks. The direction of geology is always towards relaxation. The earth does not hoard its tension. It releases it. It lets the mountain fall down to become a hill. It lets the hill wash down to become a plain. It lets the plain drift into the ocean. Everything seeks a lower level. Everything seeks rest. Gravity is the ultimate relaxation coach. It pulls everything down to the lowest, most comfortable point possible. And that is where you are right now. You are lying down. You have lowered your center of gravity. You have surrendered to the pull. You are like the sediment settling at the bottom of a quiet lake. The water in that lake is still. The mud and silt drift down slowly, creating soft, fluffy layers at the bottom. In geology, this is called deposition. It is the act of putting things down. The river puts down its burden. The wind puts down the sand. The ocean puts down the silt dot. And you are putting down your day. You are depositing the hours you have lived into the archives of your memory. You don't need to carry them anymore. You can lay them down, layer by layer, softly. Let the sediment settle. Let the water clear dot. As the water clears and the flow slows down even more, we notice a change in the temperature. The warm desert wind is fading. The cool river is getting colder. The water is starting to stiffen. It is moving slower and slower until it stops moving altogether. We are entering the world of the solid water, the world of blue ice. We are going to the places where the earth holds its breath for 1,000 years. Are you ready to cool down? The water has slowed down. It has stopped babbling over the river stones. It has stopped rushing towards the sea. The temperature has dropped, and the fluid world has stiffened into a solid state. We have arrived at the glaciers, to the unquiet mind. A glacier looks like a frozen statue. It appears to be a sheet of ice locked in place, immovable and rigid between the mountain peaks. But you know the secret of the earth now. You know that everything, absolutely everything, is moving. A glacier is simply a river that has learned the ultimate art of patience. It is a river of ice, and it is flowing. Gravity pulls on the ice just as it pulls on the water. But because ice is solid, it cannot rush. It must creep. It slides downhill inch by agonizing inch. It flows like honey that has been left in the freezer for 1,000 years. Imagine standing on the surface of a great glacier in Antarctica or Greenland. The first thing you notice is the sound, or rather, the lack of it. Snow is one of the best sound absorbers in nature. Fresh, powdery snow is 90% air. It traps sound waves in its millions of tiny pockets. It muffles the world. It is nature's acoustic foam. When you are surrounded by miles of ice and snow, the silence is profound. It is a heavy silence. It feels like a pair of soft earmuffs has been placed over the entire world. The wind might whisper, but the land itself is mute. Underneath your feet, the ice is moving, but it moves so quietly you cannot feel it. How does a glacier begin? It starts with a single snowflake. Let's visualize the life of that snowflake. It falls from the gray sky, a tiny, intricate star of 6 points. It lands on the high plateau, joining billions of its brothers and sisters. It sits there. It does not melt. The summer is too short, too cold. Then another winter comes. More snow falls on top of it, and another, and another. The snowflake is buried. It is covered by a heavy blanket of white dots. Slowly, the weight of the new snow begins to change it. The delicate points of the star break off. The snowflake is crushed. It becomes a round grain of ice, like a tiny bead of sugar. Geologists call this FIRN. As more weight piles on tons and tons of snow pressing down, the air is squeezed out. The grains of fern are pushed closer and closer together until they fuse. They lock together. They become a solid block of crystal. The snowflake has ceased to be a flake. It has become part of the monolith. It has become glacial ice. This process takes decades, sometimes centuries. It is a slow-motion transformation, a long, deep compression. Think of your own sleep as this compression. You are settling down. The fluff of your thoughts is being compressed. The distractions are being squeezed out, leaving only the solid, heavy crystal of rest. And as the ice compresses, something magical happens to the color. If you look at a deep crack in a glacier or crevasse, you will see that the ice is not white. It is not clear. It is blue dot, a glowing, electric, impossible blue dot. This is not a trick of the light. It is physics. Regular ice, like the cubes in your freezer, has lots of air bubbles in it. The bubbles scatter light, making the ice look white or cloudy. But glacial ice has been squeezed so hard that the air bubbles are tiny or gone completely. The ice crystal is dense and perfect. When sunlight hits this dense ice, the red colors of the spectrum are absorbed. They are soaked up by the crystal lattice, but the blue light has nowhere to go. It bounces around inside the crystal and escapes back out to your eye. So, a blue glacier is literally a rock of frozen water that has swallowed the color red and is breathing out the color blue. It is the color of deep time. It is the color of cold, clean purity. Now, let's drift deeper into the ice. Even though most of the air is squeezed out, tiny, microscopic bubbles remain trapped. These bubbles are time capsules. The air inside that tiny bubble is not today's air. It is the air from the year the snow fell. It could be air from the time of the Roman Empire. It could be air from the time of the mammoths. It could be air from 800,000 years ago. It is a tiny sample of the ancient atmosphere, locked in a crystal jail, waiting sometimes. When an iceberg breaks off a glacier and floats into warmer water, it begins to melt. As the ice melts, these ancient pressurized bubbles, or a glass of soda, fizz, S-C-I-N-G. Mariners call this Bergy Seltzer. If you were floating next to a melting iceberg, you would hear the sound of history being released. You would be breathing air that was last breathed by a saber-toothed tiger. It is a reminder that the earth keeps everything. It remembers every winter. It stores every breath. Nothing is truly lost. It is just frozen, waiting for the right moment to return to the cycle. But the glacier does more than just store air. It shapes the land. Remember the river stone we held? Smooth and round. The glacier is not so gentle. The glacier is a bulldozer. As the river of ice slides downhill, it is incredibly heavy. The weight of the ice sheet can be 2 miles thick. Imagine the weight of 2 miles of rock pressing down on every inch of the ground. This weight allows the glacier to carve the world. It gouges out valleys. Have you ever noticed that river valleys are shaped like a V, but glacial valleys are shaped like a U? A river cuts a narrow path. A glacier fills the whole valley, widening it, deepening it, rounding the bottom until it looks like a giant, smooth trough. Yosemite Valley is a perfect U-shape. carved by a ghost glacier that melted long ago. And at the bottom of the glacier, where the ice meets the rock, a great grinding is happening. The glacier picks up rocks and boulders and drags them along. It uses these rocks like teeth. It grinds the bedrock beneath it. Grind, crush, pulverized. It grinds the rock so fine that it becomes a powder, finer than sand, finer than dust. It becomes the consistency of flour. We call it glacial flour. When the meltwater streams flow out from under the toe of the glacier, they carry this rock flour with them. They flow into the lakes at the foot of the mountains, and this creates the most beautiful color in nature. The rock flour stays suspended in the lake water. It doesn't sink. When the sun hits the lake, the tiny particles of rock flour scatter the light, turning the water into a milky, opaque turquoise. It looks like paint. It looks like a gemstone melted down. The lakes of Banff in Canada, or the lagoons of Iceland, they glow with this surreal, milky blue-green dot. It is glacial milk. Imagine dipping your hand into that water. It is painfully cold, numbing, but incredibly soft because of the powder. It is the blood of the mountains, grounded down to silk. The glacier teaches us the beauty of Heifi is. We often try to be light. We want to be weightless, but there is comfort in weight. The ice sheets of Antarctica are so heavy that they actually push the Earth's crust down. Remember, the mantle is like memory foam. The weight of the ice pushes the crust down into the mantle. Antarctica is actually sitting inside a bowl that it made for itself. If the ice were to melt, the land would slowly, very slowly, rise back up. This is called isostatic rebound. Parts of Scandinavia and Canada are still rising today, inches per century, rebounding from the weight of the Ice Age glaciers that vanished 10,000 years ago. The Earth is still stretching, waking up from a nap it took 10 millennia ago. That is the scale of the slumber we are talking about. The Earth naps for thousands of years. It stretches for thousands of years. So why are you worried about being awake for an extra hour? You have plenty of time. Your rhythm is just a tiny blip in the great, slow breathing of the planet. Let yourself feel heavy like the glacier dot. Feel the weight of your blankets. Imagine they are layers of snow, falling year after year, pressing you down, compressing you into a state of perfect stillness. You are not stuck. You are just moving at a glacial pace, and that is perfectly fine. As we drift past the blue ice and the turquoise lakes, we begin to smell something different in the air. The crisp, dry smell of snow is fading. It is being replaced by a salty, brine-filled scent. The air is getting humid. We are reaching the end of the land. We are reaching the place where the rivers, the glaciers, and the dust all eventually go. The Great Basin, the cradle of life. We are going to the ocean, but we are not going to surf on the waves. We are not going to sail on the surface. We are going to sink. We are going to the bottom, to the darkest, quietest plains on the planet. The ocean floor is waiting for us. It is the ultimate bedroom. Prepare to submerge. We stand at the edge of the shore, where the glacial water meets the sea. The waves are rolling in. Wash, hush, wash. But we are not staying on the surface. The surface is too chaotic. It is where the storms are. It is where the ships sail. We are looking for true peace, and true peace lies at the bottom. Let yourself sink. Imagine you are heavier than water. You slip beneath the waves, soundlessly. The noise of the wind vanishes instantly. You are enveloped in a cool, blue silence. As you sink deeper, the light begins to change. The bright sun fades to a turquoise glow, then to a deep indigo, and finally, as we pass the 3,000-foot mark, the light disappears completely. We have entered the midnight zone, the BATHYPELAGIC. It is pitch black here, but do not be afraid of this darkness. It is not a scary darkness. It is a restful darkness. It is like the back of your eyelids when you close them tight. It is a velvet curtain that shuts out the visual noise of the world. There is nothing to look at here. Your eyes can finally rest. We continue to sink until our feet touch the bottom. We are standing on the abyssal plain. This is one of the most mysterious places on Earth, and yet it covers more than 50% of the planet. It is a vast, flat, silent desert of mud, but it is not just any mud. Geologists have a specific, wonderfully sleepy name for the sediment down here. They call it ooze. It is calcareous ooze or siliceous ooze. This ooze is soft. It is incredibly fine, like talcum powder made of water. If you were to step on it, you would sink up to your knees in a cloud of soft, gray billows. It is the thickest, softest mattress in the universe, and it is constantly growing. Look up into the darkness above you. Can you see them? The tiny white flakes falling slowly, drifting down from the surface, miles above. It looks like snow. In fact, scientists call it exactly that, marine snow. It is not cold ice, though. It is the remains of life from the sunlit world above. Tiny plankton, dust, organic specks that have finished their life cycle. They die and they drift down. They fall slowly, so slowly it can take weeks for a single flake of marine snow to travel from the surface to the bottom. Weeks of drifting. Weeks of silent, spiral dancing in the dark. A snowfall that lasts forever. It has been snowing like this for millions of years. This gentle rain of nutrients covers everything in a thick, fluffy layer of sediment. It muffles every sound. It softens every contour. The floor of the ocean is a place where everything is buried in softness. But the ocean floor is not just a flat plain. If we walk through the dark, we will encounter a giant. Did you know that the longest mountain range on Earth is not the Andes? It is not the Rockies. It is not the Himalayas. It is the Mid-Ocean Ridge, and it is entirely underwater. Imagine a chain of mountains that wraps around the Earth like the seam on a baseball. It winds through the Atlantic, around Africa, through the Indian Ocean, and across the Pacific. It is 40,000 miles, 65,000 kilometers long. It is 4 times longer than the Andes. Yet almost no human has ever seen it. This is where the Earth is born. Remember the tectonic plates drifting apart, the Great Drift. This ridge is the crack where they separate. Here, in the utter darkness, volcanoes are gently erupting, but the pressure of the ocean is so heavy, tons per square inch, that the lava doesn't explode. It oozes out. It squeezes out like toothpaste from a tube. And because the water is freezing cold, the lava cools instantly. It forms round, bulbous shapes. They look like pillows. Geologists literally call them pillow lavas. Imagine that. The floor of the ocean is paved with pillows made of stone. Rounded, smooth, black pillows of basalt. stacked on top of one another, mile after mile. The earth is making new bedsheets for itself, stitching the crust together with pillow lavas, silently. In the dark, the pressure down here is immense at this depth. The ocean is hugging you with the weight of hundreds of elephants. But remember, to the sleeper, pressure is comfort. Deep-sea creatures do not feel crushed by this weight, just as you do not feel crushed by the air. They are filled with water. They are equalized. The pressure holds them together. If you were a deep-sea creature, this pressure would feel like a tight, secure swaddle. It holds every cell in place. It prevents you from falling apart. There is no weather down here, no storms, no wind. The temperature stays near freezing, a constant, chilling 39 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Celsius. It is a world of stasis. Things happen here very, very slowly. A manganese nodula small rock that grows on the seafloor might take 1 million years to grow just a few millimeters. A shark might swim by, moving in slow motion, its heart beating once every 10 seconds. Everything is preserving energy. Everything is drowsy. If you dropped a gold coin here, it would land in the ooze, poof, and it would stay there, unmoved, untouched, for 10,000 years, until it was slowly covered by the marine snow, buried, forgotten, safe. There is a comfort in being hidden, isn't there? The ocean floor is the ultimate hiding place. It is the closet where the earth keeps its secrets. No one is watching. No one is judging. There is only the dark, the cold, the pressure, and the snow. Let your mind rest on that image. You are lying on a bed of soft ooze. You are wrapped in a blanket of heavy water. You are watching the white specks of marine snowdrift down from the void above, covering you layer by layer. In safety, drift, sink, settle. But even in this wet darkness, there are dry pockets. There are places hidden inside the rock itself, places where the water cannot reach, but where the beauty is even more crystalline. We are going to leave the open ocean now. We are going to seep through the cracks in the floor. We are going to find a cave where the stars are not in the sky, but hanging from the ceiling. A cave where the air has been still for 1 million years. Are you ready to enter the crystal womb? We have left the crushing weight of the ocean floor. We have seeped through the cracks in the basalt, traveled through veins of quartz, and risen up into the crust where the limestone hills sleep under the moon. Here, hidden beneath the surface of the ordinary world, the earth has carved out sanctuaries. We are entering a cave. Imagine stepping out of the bright, noisy day into the cool, breathing mouth of a cavern. The air instantly changes. It becomes still. It becomes damp. It smells of wet stone, of minerals, of time itself. It is a scent that has no name, but your body recognizes it. It is the scent of the primordial underground. As we walk deeper, the light from the entrance fades. Gray turns to charcoal. Charcoal turns to absolute black dot. In our modern world, we rarely experience true darkness. There is always a street lamp, a digital clock, a star. But deep inside a cave, the darkness is total. It is a physical presence. It wraps around you like a thick velvet cloak. But do not be afraid. In this darkness, your eyes can rest completely. There is no need to focus. There is no need to look for danger. The cave is a fortress. Nothing changes here. The The temperature stays exactly the same, day and night, summer and winter. It is a world of eternal consistency. And in this silence, if you listen very, very closely, you can hear the clock of the earth ticking. Drip is the sound of a single drop of water falling from the ceiling into a pool below. This is the architect of the underworld. Let us follow the journey of that water. It began as rain on the grassy hill above. It seeped into the soil, picking up tiny amounts of carbon dioxide from the rotting leaves. It became a weak acid. It trickled down through the cracks in the limestone rock, dissolving the stone, atom by atom, creating this hollow space over millions of years. And now, as it hangs from the ceiling, it is ready to build. Focus on a single stalactite dot. It hangs from the roof of the cave like a stone icicle. It looks sharp, but it is made of delicate rings of calcite. When the water drop hangs on the tip of the stalactite, it pauses, it trembles. It is holding on against gravity. And in that brief moment before it falls, a tiny microscopic ring of mineral is left behind. Drip, the water falls. The mineral stays to grow just 1 inch the length of the top joint of your thumb. Stalactite needs about 100 years. Think about that. If you see a stalactite that is as long as your arm, it began growing when the pyramids of Egypt were being built. If you see a giant pillar joining the floor and ceiling, it has been growing since before humans learned to speak. The cave is a gallery of frozen time. Below the stalactite, on the floor, a stalagmite reaches up. It is the child of the falling drops. It grows upward, seeking its partner above. Ideally, over eons, they will meet, they will touch, they will fuse together to form a column. It is the slowest kiss in the universe. 2 stones reaching for each other across the dark void, moving millimeters per century until finally they connect. And once they connect, they never let go. They become a pillar of strength, holding up the roof of the cave. There is something deeply romantic and patient about geology. It teaches us that separation is temporary. Connection is inevitable. It just takes time. Let us travel deeper now. Let us find a special room in this underground palace. We are going to Naica in Mexico. We are going to the Cave of Crystals. If you could stand here, and we can, in our dream body, you would not believe your eyes. You would think you had stepped into the center of a diamond. This is a cathedral of selenite. Selenite is a type of gypsum. Its name comes from Selene, the Greek goddess of the moon, because of its soft, pearly, white glow. In most places, crystals are small. You hold them in your palm. But in Naica, the crystals are giants. They are beams of white stone, 30 feet long and 4 feet thick. They look like the fallen pillars of a temple of light. They crisscross the cavern, jutting out from the walls and floor in every direction. They are the largest crystals ever found on Earth, and they are clear. If you put your hand behind one, you could see your shadow through it. But here is the surprise. It is not cold here. It is hot. This cave is located right above a magma chamber. The heat from the deep earth keeps this room at a steamy 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 50 degrees Celsius. With 100% humidity, it is a womb for 500,000 years. This cave was filled with hot, mineral-rich water. It was a dark, submerged soup, and because the temperature stayed exactly the same, perfectly stable, for 500,000 years. The crystals were able to grow without stopping. They never faced a cold day. They never faced a drought. They were held in a warm, wet embrace, allowing them to grow from microscopic specks into leviathans of light. It is a lesson in stability. To grow something magnificent like these beams of moonstone, you need a stable environment. You need to be kept warm. You need to be undisturbed. Imagine yourself as one of these crystals. You are floating in the warm, dark water of the earth. You are completely safe. You are growing, slowly adding layer upon layer of translucent beauty to your soul. You are becoming clearer. You are becoming stronger. There is no rush. You have 500,000 years to become who you are meant to be. The crystals in Naica are soft. Gypsum is a soft mineral. You could scratch it with your fingernail. This tells us that you don't have to be hard to be strong. You don't have to be rigid to be enduring. You can be soft, translucent, and beautiful, and still outlast the empires of the surface world. The cave is also a place of silence. We spoke of the silence of the snow and the ocean, but cave silence is different. In the ocean, there are whales and shifting currents. On the glacier, there is the wind, but in a deep cave, there is nothing. It is radio waves cannot penetrate here. The noise of the sun cannot reach here. The vibrations of the cities are dampened by miles of rock. This is the zone of absolute rest. In this zone, the air itself is old. It doesn't move. In some caves, the air has not been exchanged with the surface for thousands of years. When you breathe it in, you are breathing the atmosphere of the past. It is clean. It is filtered by the rock. It is free of pollen, free of dust, free of pollutants. It is sterile and pure. Breathe it in. Feel the cool, damp minerality of it filling your lungs. It grounds you. It makes you feel heavy like a stone. There are creatures here too, but they are sleepy creatures. The alm or the proteus, a pale, eyeless salamander that lives in the underground rivers of caves in Europe. It looks like a tiny, sleeping dragon. Its skin is the color of human flesh. It has no eyes, for it has no need for them in the dark. It navigates by feeling the vibrations of the water. The alm is the master of sleep. It can go without food for 10 years. It moves so little, so slowly, that it can sit in the exact same spot for 7 years without moving an inch. It is not dead. It is just waiting. It has lowered its metabolism to the absolute limit of life. It is living in a state of suspended animation, perfectly content in the dark. If the alm can rest for 7 years, surely you can rest for 7 hours. The cave whispers to you, slow down, stop moving. The world will still be there when you wake up. As we leave the Crystal Cathedral and the sleeping dragons, we begin to drift upwards. We float up through the limestone cracks, up through the clay, up through the soil. We are returning to the surface. But we are not the same as when we went down. We are heavier now. We are slower. We are filled with the wisdom of the deep rocks. We have seen the fire of the core. We have felt the drift of the plates. We have touched the blue ice of the glacier. We have sunk into the ooze of the abyss. We have marveled at the giant crystals in the dark. There is one last story to tell, a story of connection, a story of how the ends of the earth touch each other, because ultimately everything becomes dust. And dust is the traveler of the skies. The sand from the desert feeds the forest. The dust of the stars feeds us. We are preparing for the final drift, the return to the elements. Are you ready to dissolve into the wind? We have surfaced from the deep caves. We are standing on the grass under the vast open sky. The air is still. The night is gentle. In this final moment, we look at the smallest geological traveler of all, dust. We often think of dust as a nuisance, something to be wiped away from a bookshelf. But to the earth, dust is a messenger. It is a gift sent from one continent to another. Let your mind drift to the Sahara Desert. Imagine the heat of the day fading. The great dunes of Africa are cooling down. The wind picks up. It lifts millions of tiny particles of white sand into the air. But this is not ordinary sand. This specific dust comes from a place called the Bodeli Depression. Long ago, this was a giant lake. It was filled with microscopic creatures called diatoms. When they died, their tiny shells made of white silica and rich in phosphorus settled on the bottom. The lake dried up, leaving behind a vast bed of this white, nutrient-rich powder. Now, the wind lifts the ghosts of these ancient lake creatures into the sky. They float, they drift, they embark on a transatlantic journey. They fly over the blue Atlantic Ocean, carried by the trade winds. They travel for thousands of miles, a river of dust in the sky. And where do they land? They fall on the Amazon rainforest. This is one of the most beautiful connections in science. The lush, green, breathing Amazon rainforest needs phosphorus to grow. The soil there is poor, but the Sahara Desert has too much of it, so every year, the wind carries 27 million tons of dust from the desolation of the desert to the canopy of the jungle. The dead lake of Africa feeds the living lung of South America. Imagine that you are a speck of that dust. You are floating high above the ocean. You are weightless. You are just a passenger on the wind. Below you is the blue water. Above you is the black space. You drift slowly, slowly, until finally you settle on a green leaf in the jungle. You dissolve into the rain. You become part of a tree. It is a reminder that everything is connected. The dry and the wet, the hot and the cold, the near and the far. There is no separation. The earth is one single breathing organism, passing nutrients from one hand to the other while it sleeps. And speaking of rain, can you smell it? In our story, a gentle rain begins to fall. Pit-pat, pit-pat. It hits the dry, warm soil. And instantly, a scent rises up. You know this smell. It is the most comforting smell in the world. It is the smell of summer rain on dry asphalt, or the smell of the garden after a storm. We call it petric, or the word comes from Greek. Petra, meaning stone, and ichor, the blood of the gods. It is the blood of the stone. But the science is even more fascinating. The smell comes from a tiny bacteria in the soil called streptomyces. When the earth is dry, these bacteria sleep. They produce a chemical called geosmin. When the rain hits the ground, it acts like a release valve. Tiny bubbles of air trapped in the soil rise up and pop, spraying this geosmin into the air like a microscopic perfume. Our human noses are incredibly sensitive to this smell. We can detect it at 5 parts per trillion. We are more sensitive to the smell of rain than a shark is to the smell of blood. Why? Because for our ancestors, this smell meant water. It meant survival. It meant relief. So when you smell the rain, your body instinctively relaxes. Your brain sends a signal. The drought is over. The water has come. You can rest now. Breathe in that imaginary scent, the cool, earthy, damp aroma of wet stone. Let it fill your bedroom. Let it wash away the stale air of the day. We are nearing the end of our lullaby. We have spoken of rocks, of magma, of ice, and of dust. But we must not forget the most important geological formation of all, you. Our geology. Every atom in your body came from the earth. The calcium that makes your bones strong. That is limestone. It is the same stuff as the white cliffs and the seashells. The iron that makes your blood red. That is the core of the planet. It is the same metal that spins in the center of the earth to create the magnetic shield. The water in your cells. That is the rain, the glacier, the ocean. It has flowed through dinosaurs, through storm clouds, through deep caves, and now it flows through you. You are not separate from the earth. You are a piece of it that has stood up to look around for a little while and sleep. Sleep is just a small way of returning to the rock. When you lie down, you surrender to gravity. You stop moving. You become still. You lower your consciousness. You become like the mountain. You become like the stone in the river. There is nothing to fear in this stillness. It is your natural state. Feel the bed beneath you. It is supported by the floor. The floor is supported by the foundation. The foundation is supported by the soil. The soil is supported by the crust. The crust is floating on the mantle. And the mantle is hugging the core. You are held up by the entire planet. You are backed by 6 sextillion tons of rock. You are not going to fall, so let go. Let go of your jaw. Let it hang loose. Let go of your shoulders. Let them sink. Let go of your hands. Let them curl like sleeping leaves. Let go of your thoughts. Let them drift like the Sahara dust, blowing away across a dark ocean, further and further away, until they are just specks in the distance. The journey is over. The guide is stepping back into the shadows. The earth is humming its low, steady song just for you. The continents are drifting. The crystals are growing. The ocean is snowing. And you are safe. You are warm. You are home. Good night.